I'm Michael Holman. I am also the other psychology instructor here. And today we are going to be talking about study skills and time management. And we want to thank you all for coming and joining us today. Again, please make sure that your videos are all muted. We can still hear somebody cooking or something right now. So if that's you, make sure you're muted. Beyond that, though, we are going to go ahead and get started. All right. So when we look at studying and managing our time, one of the first things that we have to really think about is, what does that mean? And what's one of our number one enemies? Personally, for me, is procrastination.
It's sort of for me too. I do enjoy lists. I can make a list, but getting that stuff off the list. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So interesting enough, guys, if you are a procrastinator, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're lazy, but it does mean that you put things off. And some of the reasons we procrastinate is, well, one in particular is because time management. You think, oh, I can do it at this time. I can keep putting it off. And before you know it, your whole day's gone. And the next day's here. And you keep putting it off. Another reason, no self-control or no self-discipline. And one more that I found interesting too is that you feel that you've worked on some other projects all day and I'm tired. This is boring. I want to reward myself. So what we want to talk about with procrastination is maybe rewarding yourself after you've completed that daunting, horrible task that you need to do. So we do know procrastination by definition is putting things off that you know you need to do, things that you even would like to do. So who's guilty of when it comes to homework and study time? Oh, I'm tired. I'm sleepy. I'll do that later. Oh, gosh, I got to go take a shower. Oh, gosh, I got to call my friend. Oh, I'm going to have a snack. I'll do it after this. Yeah, you're going to run out of time eventually. So again, procrastination doesn't mean you're lazy. It just means that you need to manage your time a little better. So one thing you can do is avoid tasks just because you don't want to avoid tasks because you don't want to deal with them right now. So those little rituals like calling that friend, having that snack, taking a shower, do them before you do your homework. Do them before you have other things you need to do. So some things you can do is set a specific time and stick to it. You have to make yourself do it. And then maybe have your reward after you do that. Cut out one of your rituals each time you complete a task, for school. Save that ritual maybe even until you've completed your task. Now, I've heard some of my students say this, and I'm sure you have too, Mr. Holman. I work best under pressure. Mm-hmm. I can get it done. Actually, guys, studies have shown the opposite happen. When you put things off to the last minute, you're actually increasing your stress. Mm-hmm. Maybe even having the chance that you're not going to do it at all. That increases even depression, and guess what? Guilt as well. So for those of us who think I work better under pressure, you actually don't.
It might not be so much that you work better under pressure, more so that you actually get things done under pressure. But that's not the same as working better. Mm-hmm. Remember, we want to do the best that we can. We don't want to just submit any old thing for our grades, especially.
And for me, that pressure causes some anxiety. I may make several mistakes, but that's just me. So let's talk about some ways to be a better student, if you will.
Absolutely. So when we think about being a better student, the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, how do we learn? And the way that we learn is actually called a learning style. And many of us could be all sorts of different types, but there are three main ones that we're going to talk about today. First, there's a visual learner. You are a person that learns by seeing. You learn best by reading your notes. reading the chapter, reading a book, anything like that. You're the kind of person that really likes to look at charts, that loves a good graph. If it is listed in some kind of big picture, it's going to make sense to you. Or you could be an auditory learner. An auditory learner is someone that learns through sound. So you learn best by listening. You learn best by being in class, by having conversations, by discussing things. Maybe you learn best through music, through a song. Are you the kind of person that maybe in school you had to create some sort of jingle to remember an equation in math, or to remember the order of the planets in the solar system? All that's auditory learning. Or you could be what we call a tactile or experiential learner. And this means that you learn by doing. You are the kind of person that needs to be involved, to be an active participant in your learning. You can't just sit at a desk all day and expect to just absorb stuff like a sponge. No, you're the kind of person that needs to get up, to be active, to do activities, to write things down. You might have to write your notes several different times so that it sticks in your brain. Or, here's the fun part, you could be a combination of all three. You can be any of these in any sort of different way. So really, this part of today is about sitting down and asking yourself, how do I learn? We can't answer that. That's going to be up to you. So think about the best ways that you have learned in your life. Think about your own lived experiences. What has helped you to really learn? Think about the ways that you learned best. Maybe there was a teacher that was really, really great and you loved that teacher and they helped you understand the material really well. What did they do? That will help you to better understand what your learning style actually is.
So, one thing of many that I know a lot of students struggle with, actually a lot of people struggle with, is organization. That's actually going to be a key to being a really good student. So, getting organized. How many times do we hear, oh, I didn't know that was due, and I missed that deadline. Oh, and I had all these things to do, and can I just get a little extension? So if you're organized, meaning you know your due dates, you have them written down, that makes you a better student. So some things that we suggest that you do to get organized, especially when you start your classes. Every course you has a syllabus. Many of them should have a course schedule. So when you actually start your class, read and print your course syllabus. If there is a schedule telling you the due dates and the times, print that and maintain that calendar. Now, the thing about that is there's several different things you can use. I didn't bring it with me, but I have a calendar that I actually hold, and I like to write my things down. I'm that person. But if you would like to have an app on your phone or some other tool that reminds you when your assignments are due, I don't recommend using all three. I don't recommend using an app and a calendar. You need to use one of those. So take a day, maybe at the beginning of Sunday, Monday, beginning of the week, write down all your due dates for your assignments. Also, plan. I don't recommend planning a whole month, but you might want to plan your whole week of when things are due, what assignment that is, the time, specifics, and keep it with you. Because you work, you have things to do. You may not even be home that day that assignment's due. But if you have your calendar with you, you can probably make some adjustments, maybe use your phone, whatever you need to when it comes to that. So when it comes to your schoolwork, now for me, I even have family members that laugh. I write down everything. I schedule everything for myself. This keeps me on track. So I strongly recommend and encourage you to set specific times for things you want to do. If your life is really, really busy, even schedule a break. It works. So I strongly encourage you to set a study schedule. If you're taking maybe 3, 4 classes, you should literally get your calendar out and write down, your schedule whenever you have free time. So maybe Monday. Oh yeah, I have biology. I'm going to study from 6 to 8 for biology. Tuesday. Oh, 4 to 5:30. I'm going to get ready for my psychology discussion board. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to Google some websites. I'm not going to really start it, but I'm just going to be prepared for it. Then Wednesday, from 12 to 1:30, maybe you have some time between classes or your lunch break. Then you can start making notes for your discussion board, or even start working on your English assignment that's coming up. So it's really about strategizing your time and utilizing all of it. Friday, study your biology again. Oh yeah, guys, the weekends, sorry. When you're a student, gotta be a student on purpose. So if you're free on Saturday and Sunday, those are actually some good days to get a lot of work done. So schedule some time on Saturday and Sunday. Not the whole day, just maybe a couple of hours to maybe go over one of your papers or an assignment or two. But I would utilize all my days. And then take your Sunday to prepare for your next week.
And the thing is also remember, as silly as it sounds, you might want to prepare and schedule fun in there too.
I agree.
How many times have you been like, oh, but I know I've got all this homework, but I also have my friend's birthday party. I have my sister's baby shower or anything like that that pops up, right? And that stuff, it's life. We don't want to miss out on life just because we're a student, but we need to make sure that it's in the schedule too, because then we can make sure, okay, is this something I definitely need to attend?
Exactly.
Or is this something that I would just really like to attend? Maybe if it's something that I would really like to attend, I can see if there's any flexibility in my schedule earlier in the day so I can still do my school stuff and be able to attend this.
And also, if you notice with the schedule, nothing's over 2 hours. Sometimes like an hour and a half, because I get it, sitting trying to study for hours on end without a break, that's just too much.
Okay, I text you.
Pardon?
I don't know.
Okay, so as I was stating with the calendar, just also, as we said, you have a commitment. You do now know that you've got to definitely get that study time in before your event, because you want to make sure you've done your schoolwork, and you certainly don't want to miss your sister's baby shower. So again, time management, prepare. So now you might have to shift that Thursday or Friday assignment to another day. So this is kind of what a schedule could look like. You want to make sure you set your goals, because as I always tell my students, you have to be a student on purpose. Life happens. We're all tired. We're all stressed. We all have a lot going on, but you are in school for a reason. You have a goal in mind. And just to be honest, you're not going to get that degree by not completing assignment. So you might as well just make a schedule and stick to it. So this is an example of what one could look like. Write down your subjects, your classes, the day of the week when you want to study. And again, if you need to put in, 1 hour, because I got to watch my favorite shows, I got to do my Grey's Anatomy, put that on your schedule, whatever you need to. I support that. There's also another example, it's kind of small there, of what a week would look like with your, even as you can see, we scheduled in the lunches and everything. So schedule, because for me, I have to, because otherwise I tend to forget things and I can actually feel overwhelmed. I often tell students also, when you have so much to do, and it's easy not to do any of it. So if you schedule times and do a little at a time before your deadline, you won't feel so overwhelmed. That's my rule of thumb.
But of course, it's not all about schedules. It's also about taking good notes. So for some of you, this quote might sound familiar. I don't need to take notes. I understand it in class. Have you ever been sitting in a class and the teacher is going over something and it totally makes sense? You're just like, yeah, that clicks. I totally understand this. Everything is awesome. I'm going to do great in this class. And then about an hour after the class, you're sitting at home and you're looking at your homework and you're like, what happened? Where did it go? What happened to all that knowledge, right? That is why notes are important, because our memory is not perfect. Just a few important facts to know. Anything that you are not paying attention to will not be remembered. Literally. For every second that your mind wanders, you check your phone, you look at Facebook, anything like that, you're losing information. That is a scientific fact. Information that you are not currently paying attention to does not make it into your brain to be remembered later. So that's why it's really important that we, one, pay attention in class, but then two, take really good notes. Information can be retained in your short-term memory for about 1 minute. That's 60 seconds on average. The amount of information we can immediately remember is very finite. So obviously we have to pay attention in class, but then stuff only stays in our short-term memory for 60 seconds. And then it's gone, unless we write it down, unless we study it and we repeat it. Then it can finally make its way into our long-term memory so that we can actually use it later. But when you're in class, just think about that. You can only hold information for 60 seconds, and then it's gone. So we've got to take good notes, because information can be forgotten at very, very fast rates, even if you pay attention to every word in the class. In fact, one way that scientists have really demonstrated this was with a guy named Ebbinghaus and his classic curve of forgetting. This might be a little familiar to you if you have taken psychology or so. So what he did is that Ebbinghaus had his participants in his little experiment try to memorize a list of nonsense syllables, just random sounds that they had to try and memorize. When he asked all of his participants to, after memorizing the list, immediately say what was the list, everybody got it right. 100% accurate. And that's just like when you're sitting in class and it all makes sense. But notice this. When he waited 20 minutes later and asked them, hey, what was that list again? They were down to 60%. They could only remember 60% of what they had just shown at 100%. Wait an hour, and now it's a little above 40. Wait 9 hours, so a whole work shift, and it's below 40%. And you can see as this stretches into days, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Now, think about when you're sitting in class and everything makes perfect sense. You totally understand the material. And then you leave class, and then you go and you do other things. You have a job, you go to another class, you have your life outside of school, and maybe the exam isn't for another 4 weeks. Look how much you've already forgotten if you didn't take any notes. This is why you take notes, because you will forget. So how do I take good notes? Well, number one, pay attention to what your instructor says and does, like writing on the board or repeating information. This is usually important stuff, which means it's likely to end up on the exam. You know, a lot of times students will raise their hand and they'll ask us a question like, is this gonna be on the test? Right. Don't do that, that's insulting. I wouldn't tell you if it wasn't important. So, but especially if I take time out of my day to write something on a board for you, I take the extra time to do that, that means it's important. That means you're probably gonna see it again, that you need to know about it. Also, if I repeat stuff, if I am saying it over and over again, if I'm bringing it back up later in the class, maybe write that down in your notes. Maybe say, oh, he really wants us to remember what this is. Number two, if possible, do some work before class, whether it is reading or looking at a set of math problems. This does what we call priming the brain and prepares it for class by familiarizing it to the topic. So basically, you're getting prepped. You're getting ready for whatever that class is about. Don't go into math class cold turkey. If you haven't even looked at math since last week, no. Your brain's not going to be ready. Go ahead and just kind of look at what the homework was. Be like, okay, what were we talking about last time? That'll help remind you of what you already know and get you better on a good track so that, you know, your professor's not going 90 miles a minute like we tend to do. And then you're still trying to catch up from last week. And when taking notes, write in your own words. This reinforces understanding of the topic and strengthens your memory. Notes don't mean a thing. They don't have any value whatsoever if you don't understand it. Yeah. So like when I'm writing a big scary word on the board, if I say something like, I'm just going to throw one out there, weird word, parascavatriadecaphobia, right? And you're like, what the heck is that? And so I write it on the board and you write it down, parascavatriadecaphobia. And then an hour later, you look at your notes and you see that big old word. That doesn't mean anything to you. That doesn't mean a thing. But if I say, hey, that's the fear of Friday the 13th. Oh, well, maybe you can write that word and then write underneath it, this means fear of Friday the 13th, right? Yeah. So it's about using your notes to understand it. In a lot of classes, we're going to throw a bunch of terms at you that you don't know yet. So you got to make sure that you translate what we say so that it makes sense to you. And that's also part of being a good student, where when you're taking notes, if something doesn't make sense, raise your hand. Ask us. Like, okay, what does that mean? I don't get it. Yeah, because we're going to assume you know. So here are some common mistakes that a lot of people make when taking notes. The number one mistake that we see in note taking is that students try to write down every single thing the teacher says without actually listening. So many times a teacher will be going and going and going on the board, and you as a student are at home and you're just like, you're making a literal transcript of everything that they've said, just writing every single word, every single word. The problem is when you're so focused on writing every single word, you're missing what we're actually trying to tell you.
And honestly, it's not possible.
Yeah, it really isn't. You're gonna fail at that. I talk way too fast.
It's not gonna work.
Remember, when writing, your notes should be short and right to the point. You want to use these notes so you can get to the information. Especially, let's say if you're in one of our classes, all of our exams are open note and open book. Do you really want to have to go through an entire transcript to try and find the answer to the question? No. You want short, sweet answers. That's what you do. While taking notes, students do not think about the topics their teachers are saying. Remember, we're not just wanting you to write down word by word. We also want you to think about it, apply it to your life. Be like, oh, so is that like when blah, blah, blah. You got to apply this stuff so that it makes sense to you. It is important to take notes in order to remember, sure, but it is more important to understand the new complex ideas that are being introduced to you at a fast rate. Notes are useless if you don't understand what they're trying to tell you. Students do not ask questions while the teacher is lecturing when the ideas are fresh in their minds. This is another big one. A lot of times, students will just be so dang polite, and it's so lovely. We really do appreciate it. But if you're like, oh, I don't want to interrupt him, he's really on a roll, and then you wait until the end of class, well, by the end of class, you're gonna be like, well, I gotta go to work, or I am done with this class, I don't want to be here any longer. And then you don't ask that question. And so then whatever you didn't understand in class, you now never will understand. Yeah, we love it. It means you're actually paying attention. Engage with us. We like that. We hate just speaking to empty crowds, basically.
Blank faces.
Yeah. Engage with us. You'll learn more. And guess what? When you ask a question, and you've probably heard this a million times, your classmates also had that question.
They did.
Someone else had it, but they were too shy. How many times have you been in a class and someone asked a question, you're like, I'm so glad someone asked that question.
Right.
I didn't want to be the one. But there you go. So sometimes you got to be a little bold. You got to be a little brave. And it helps. It really does. Be an active participant in your learning.
So some study tips. I know a lot of students, I've had students ask me this, how do I pass your exam? How do I pass this class? Yeah, we can give you some advice, some study tips. So one thing about you, always do your homework. some students, our rule of thumb is, for one, in psychology, never miss any assignments.
Not a one.
As soon as you miss one, so always do your homework. The homework, that's practice for your midterms, your final exams, any of your regular exams. So if a homework is assigned, it's assigned for a reason. Do it.
I want to share a story about this.
Yes.
So a couple semesters ago, I discovered that a number of students were cheating on a homework assignment in one of my classes.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. But I didn't really do anything about it because I couldn't really prove who was actually cheating. But guess what? I took note of every student that I knew for sure was definitely cheating, even though I didn't have proof. And then I looked at how well they did on that upcoming exam that homework assignment was directly related to. And guess what? It was not a good thing. They didn't do well. So that homework is there to, one, boost your grade so that you can raise your grade by getting this practice in. But then that practice will help you to do even better on those exams.
It's not just there for no reason. It's not pointless. It's there to help you.
Yes.
And also, read well. If you have a textbook, and I know you do, read the chapters. But also, your textbooks have these subheadings. They're in bold print. All textbooks are going to have pictures, charts, graphs. Read those. They are certainly going to have a summary at the end of the chapter. Key concepts. I read these things. These are useful. They will help you. They will help you in your exams, your homework. You do know the whole course is based on the textbook, so it is beneficial. So read well. If you're a person who just hates reading and reading and reading, one thing you can maybe start with is reading the summary first, so you can get an idea of what's in there. Oh, okay. Then you can go back and read the chapter. But it's very important to read the book. Also, underline and take notes. As we stated, it is not a good practice to try to write down everything your instructor said. You can't, and it's just not a good thing to do. But when you are reading, and I like to take notes, because guess, as we stated, you're not going to remember everything you read. So jot down the main points. If you highlight it, and go back and read it. Also, something that I practice is rephrase it. If it's in these terms that I don't know, this might be a bit of work. Get a dictionary and find another way of saying that word. Or maybe just use another way that you would say it, but rephrase it. Put it in another way that you can understand what it is. And that'll be very beneficial with you, with your assignment and your homework and your tests. And you can even understand the material better. Because sometimes we'll use a term that you may not be familiar with. And I usually try to connect dots with the term. But when you go home, find another way to understand what that term means, or another way of even saying it.
Yeah, if you can't remember what a term actually means, guys, Google is free. And y'all all got smartphones.
Thank you.
Look it up.
This is what always puzzles me. I'm like, you could have Googled or go to the dictionary and get synonyms, find another way of saying that word, and that'll actually help you understand the whole concept a whole lot better. I've done that. Also, read the summary, as I keep stating. The summary summarizes the whole chapter. Don't read the summary only, but also read it. Then look over the end of the chapter questions, if that's provided. I know in psychology, we have those. That's really a good way to prepare for the exam. So if there's questions at the end of the chapter, do them. Some of you might think, oh, I don't want to do all that work. I don't have to do it. It only helps you. It's actually helping you understand the material better, and it's actually helping you go over everything you just read in the chapter. I strongly encourage it. Review. One of the techniques I think Mr. Holman may go over for memory, repetition. If you do this and read and go over this information over and over, something's going to stick. You're going to remember this, especially when it comes to the exam. So you just have to do the work. You have to practice the information. You got to look at it. Concentrate on what you don't know. If something's easy, why would you spend so much time on that information? You need to spend time on that concept that was hard, that you couldn't figure out. That's the one that needs your time and dedication. That's a very good tool. And also take breaks. again, if you block 2 hours out for your study time, please somewhere in there put you a 15, 20-minute break in between. 2 hours, your brain's gonna be fried. You're not gonna do well, and pretty soon you're just gonna read and not remember one thing you saw, and you're just not gonna like it. It's not gonna be good at all. And also get sleep. Recently, with the consciousness chapter, I just did a poll with some of my students and just going over how much sleep they get at night. Half the class get less than 5 hours.
Oh no. Oh, that's bad.
Sleep, they're accruing a sleep debt. Guys, sleep is very important in your health. It reduces so much, but anxiety, stress, we can go on.
Yeah.
So if you can, you should get at least, they're not going to do it, 6 hours of sleep.
Minimum. Work for 6.
Yes, but it's very important because if we accrue a real high sleep debt, that does interfere with memory, learning. So it's very important to get sleep.
Makes you irritable, makes you cranky. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Not just that. Think about this. You know how much a lot of us like to say we love our beds? Well, guess what? Your bed loves you too. So spend more time with it.
This is true. This is true. So, are we done? No.
Oh, relax.
So, and relax. The breaks, seriously, I am a fan of those because you can easily burn out and you're like, you know what the heck with this? I don't want to be in college anyway. So take a break. If you've read a chapter and maybe it took you 30 or 40 minutes, take a break. Go outside, get some air, and come back and finish up.
Yeah, when Mrs. Ben Walker was talking about taking some time out to reward yourself by watching Grey's Anatomy, or by getting that nice fat juicy cheeseburger, or getting an ice cream, or however it is that you like to celebrate, do it. Those moments where you can be kind to yourself and treat yourself for working hard go a long way so that you don't get burned out.
You're not learning. That's what that is. So some study tricks and strategies, flashcards. I do know some students like those. We actually have some built in the psychology course, but if your class does not, index cards, Post-its, whatever you like, you can write your concept definition on one side and the term on the next. That's a good tool if you would like to do that. And rewriting your notes. That sounds like a lot of work. But sometimes when you're rewriting something that can kind of help you remember it, then rewriting it, you're like, wait, I didn't understand what that meant. That may actually lead to you having to figure out another way of understanding that information. So rewriting notes is really beneficial.
Another way that you can try to remember things is with a mnemonic. That means making a song to try and remember it. Doing a fun little thing, like as you see here, we've got grizzly bears don't fly airplanes, so that you can remember all the letters in the bass class if you're a music person, and this is more familiar to you. So these are just weird little things that you can hear that will stick in your mind. Let's see, another one is a jingle, making a song. For example, one of my favorites is the quadratic formula song. This guy is something that I learned when I was in high school a very long time ago. And it helped me. I learned it in math, and it's still with me to this day. Anytime someone's like, what's the quadratic formula? All I have to do is say, negative b, plus or minus square root, plus or minus square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a over 2a. Stuck with me. I've known it since I was 16 years old. Can't get it out of my head. So make a jingle that stays with you. If you're an auditory learner like we've talked about, there you go. That's what will help you. Another really great trick is chunking. Chunking is when you organize information into chunks so that you don't have to remember a whole chapter's worth of information. You can just chunk it up into little sections. Think of it like this. Which of these numbers is easier to memorize? What is it? That's 3,129,823,812, or 312,982,3812. Small number, but guess what? We do that all the time. We can make little chunks of information where we only have to remember small pieces, but then those small pieces lead us towards remembering other things. It is a fantastic way to remember all sorts of things.
And study groups, they can be useful. What you didn't know, maybe your classmate did, vice versa. You guys can bounce ideas off each other. However, be mindful of your time. This time is to study. It's not social hour to catch up on the latest gossip or the TV shows. So you have to be very mindful with study groups, but they can be very, very helpful, especially when it comes to exam time and you guys are trying to go over terms or different things. But they can be useful. I am not a fan of them, but if you are, it works for you.
Now, I loved study groups when I was in school,
Mm.
but I loved them for the wrong reason.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
why it didn't work for me.
I had a great time in study groups.
We never studied anything. I had to go
Exactly.
back to my dorm room and study after.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is a big one. Stress. The thing is, a little bit of stress is good. It pushes you to do better. We call it eustress. You know that there's a deadline. You know that you've got to be at this place at this certain time, and that helps you to meet goals, do all sorts of great things. However, as we all know, too much stress can absolutely be a bad thing. Some people, they start making more mistakes when they get stressed out. Some people just shut down and not do anything. And the whole time, the clock is ticking. You can just feel it going. So if you know you've got a deadline, maybe you're taking an exam and it's a timed exam and you're like, oh no, I've only got an hour. And so then you're sitting there and you're trying to take this test and you look at question one and you're like, I don't know question one. And then you sit there and you stare at question one and you keep staring at question one and you keep staring at question one and you're looking through your notes and you can't find the answer in your notes. And then you're just picking out and then you look and you go, oh God, 10 minutes have passed. I've only got 50 minutes and haven't even answered one question. What am I going to do? So here are some things that we can do to help you. One of those is utilize relaxation techniques. So think about ways that you can calm yourself down. You might have heard of things like breathing in, breathing out. Because what's happening is you're panicking, you're freaking out, and you're thinking about all of this other stuff beyond the exam that's messing with you. That isn't even happening right now, but you're worried about it. It's like when you deal with an argument with a friend or with a coworker, and then you go home and you sit on the edge of your bed and you just worry. That is what we're talking about, that anxiety that just stays with you and all it does is distract you. And so there are a lot of relaxation techniques that we can use, but one technique that I really like to share is called the stop, drop, and roll technique. And so it works like this, and I want everybody to try and do it with me at home. So whenever you find yourself getting stressed out and you're in the exam or whatever, I want you to first stop what you're doing. Stop everything. Just stop. You can even say the word stop if you have to, especially if you're alone. If you're with other people, don't do that because then they start looking at you weird. But you go stop. And then you drop everything. Drop your hands, drop anything in your hands, drop your head and drop your eyes. Close your eyes. And now we're going to roll. And we're going to roll clockwise. So we're going to roll up. And as we roll our head up, we're going to take in a deep breath. And as we roll our head down, we're going to release all of that air out. And I call it dragon breath. Just imagine that all that anxiety that you're breathing in, just let it out like a dragon. Just go and breathe it out. And we just keep rolling, just going up and out. And you do that a few times. And here's the thing, that is a physical behavior that you can do that lowers your body's anxiety. You can, if you're doing it right now, you probably feel your body changing. You can actually feel it getting different. That's something you can do to physically make your body relax a little bit. And there's lots of other relaxation techniques out there. That's just one that I really like to do. Another thing that we can focus on is controlling negative self-talk. Remember, you're in that exam, You're looking at it. You look at question 1. You don't know it. Okay, I'll skip. I'll go to question 2. So I go to question 2. Oh God, I don't know this one either. You go to question 3. I don't know this one either. Oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I do this? I'm so dumb. I'm never going to pass this class. I'm going to fail. There's nothing that I can do. Why did I even bother being in here? I should just go back to Wendy's. What was I thinking? I'm stuck here. There's nothing that I can do. My mom was right. They all said I won't amount to anything. Here I am. There's just nothing. All of that negative self-talk is like bricks that you are carrying around with you. Every single negative, nasty thing that you say to yourself is a brick that you're carrying in a backpack with you at all times. And while you're doing that, you're making your load heavier. You're making it harder for you to get around. All that negative stuff is just fighting you. And so what you can do to get rid of it is practice positive self-talk, because a lot of this stuff is automatic in our thinking. We just automatically think negative stuff, no matter what it is. Something bad happens, well, we go quick to the negative. Somebody doesn't return our text right away, that's because they're cheating. Must be. So we have to control those automatic negative thoughts and switch back to being more positive. So like I said, it's cognitive combat. What's the mental way that we can fight it? Well, every time you have a negative thought, counter it. So when you're thinking, I don't know this stuff, you say, no, I don't know this question. When you say, I can't do this, you say, yes, I can. Think of it this way. Imagine what you looked like as a little kid, teeny tiny little child. Now, think about all the mean, nasty, horrible, negative things that you've been saying to yourself. You are also saying those things to that little kid. How would you feel if someone said that? You wouldn't like it at all. Also, please don't be posting the answers in the chat. That is rude. Y'all are here to pay attention, not just to get answers. I don't like that. Stop it. Now, back to what I was saying. Apply the power of positive thinking. What you need to really focus on here is that you can do this. You chose to be in college. You chose to take college classes. That means that if you've made it this far, you're smart. You can do this. You have the ability. It is within you. So you got to believe in yourself that you can do it. But one of the biggest things that we can also do is time management. Remember, when we're doing a timed exam, it's going to stress us out. It just is. It's just a fact. So what you want to do is make the most of your time. Have your notes organized and ready to go. When you're sitting there, if you have an open note exam like we do, don't then go and try to find your notes somewhere. You want to go ahead and search for them so that you can just have it ready.
Yeah. My rule of thumb is don't study for the test while you're taking the test. Kind of have it organized and maybe even by chunking, so you'll know, okay, I know this concept, but I just need to look at the definition, and you'll know where to find it.
Yeah. Create a dump sheet of vital information that you don't want to forget. Be prepared to write this down on the back of the test or a blank piece of paper if necessary. Sometimes if you know, like maybe it's math and you've got a bunch of formulas that you need to have memorized, go ahead and have that stuff written down so you can quickly get to it.
Preparation.
Yeah, again, preparation is so important for this. Preview the test. Is it multiple choice? How long is it? What kinds of questions are there? So those are the things that you want to think about. How can I best prepare going forward? If I know that it's multiple choice, if I know that there's 50 questions, that helps me to think, okay, now how long is too long to spend on a question? You know, maybe if it's a really hard one, I can mark it and come back after I've spent too long on it. Let's see, create a test schedule. Determine how many questions there are, how much time you have, and how long you will give yourself for each question. Yeah, which is what I was just talking about. Yeah, be prepared. Think about what's going to help you the best. You know what works best for you. So think about it and use it. Remember to answer the easy questions first. A lot of times what happens is we see and that a student will look at a test and they get stuck on the really hard question,
Yes.
and it's a roadblock and you
Yes.
don't move forward.
Yes.
So
Come back to it.
come back to it later. If you go ahead and get those easy ones out of the way, if you can. Now, if the test doesn't allow you to backtrack, then I'm sorry, Charlie, that doesn't apply.
Right.
But that depends on the class. Answer the difficult questions next, of course, then answer the hardest ones after that, and then guess at the rest. This is so huge. Never leave a question blank.
Right, because that's a zero.
Yeah.
There's no point.
You are guaranteed to get that question wrong.
But
If it's multiple choice and there are 4 possible answers, you got a 1 in 4 chance. So at least guess. If you don't know, put something. If you leave it blank, you're guaranteed to lose those points. And of course, once you are done, review the test. I cannot tell you when I was in school how many times I would be trying to understand something, and I would be going through the test. And once it was done, I'd be like, "Ooh,
maybe
done. And so I would just turn it in and not and looked at it. And then when I get my test back, I would have questions wrong that I knew the answer to. I knew what the answer was. I just didn't double check myself. And again, use all of your test time. Never give up.
Yes, we allow 2 hours. I have seen some students finish that test in 30 minutes. You've had an hour and a half more. Use it.
And we know what's happening a lot of times. You looked at that test, you realized you didn't know any one of those answers, and then you were like, well, click, 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 and it didn't matter. You've got time.
Yes.
Crack open the book if you can.
You could get some right, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is that we lose hope and we fall into despair. And so then we don't bother trying. You can do this. Even if you don't know the answer, give it a good shot. Use all that time and every single bit of material that is at your disposal so that you can do the best you can.
And finally, so we know a great college student, and hopefully that'll be you. They know when to study. You got to carve out that time. You know where to study. Granted, I know we have busy lives. If you can squeeze it in, maybe at your 15-minute break at work in your car, take it. It does not have to be this in your room or in the library. If you actually have to have, if your life is really busy, just get it in when you can. But studying, you have to actually get that in there. Now, know when to take class notes. Fortunately for you, because when I was in college, there was no such thing as PowerPoints. So fortunately, guys, if you didn't get a chance to write things down, you can go back and look at the PowerPoints. Some of your instructors actually have a lecture video. You can go back and listen to it again. So you have all these opportunities to hear your lecture again if you need to. And also, know what to do to complete your homework. You will actually going to complete your homework. It's not just there for show, for funsies. Homework is preparing you for your exams. Homework is to help you understand the material. And if you don't understand it, this is, of course, when you contact your instructor. That is one point I think we didn't mention also. If you're at home and you didn't understand something, email your instructor. Email them, telling them, complete the assignment, of course, but of course, email them stating, well, I did have trouble with this assignment. I didn't understand A, B, C, or D. Let your instructor know that you need some help. Because honestly, I tell my students, I will help you. Help me help you. I'm not going to pursue you to help you. You're going to have to pursue me for this help. So reach out. And also, you would know why it's important to be a great test taker. Tests are about 15, 20% of the grade. So it's important to be a good test taker. So with that being said,
if you would like to maybe get a little bit of extra help, guess what? There's tutoring available for a lot of different classes.
it is.
Not psychology right now, unfortunately, but
we do have a writing lab.
yeah, we do have a writing lab. So if you're struggling with APA, you absolutely can go to one of our writing labs and they will help you.
Yeah.
They're experts at that. So this is available, and notice it says online student success center. So these are updated times with all the different sorts of ways that are available for you to get tutoring. So you can just go to this website. Our main website is just lineartech.edu/tutoring, and you can schedule a meeting with one of our fabulous tutors, and they will be more than happy to help you and get that personalized individual attention that you need. It's free, folks. You're a student. That's what they're here for, is to help you out. So take advantage of it. So that is it for this particular lecture. Now I do see that we have some questions.
Yeah.
So let's see what we've got. Let's see.
Okay, I will reiterate because it is a question. Mr. Hellman, how do you like my shirt?
It is a fabulous color of pink.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
That's
What do you think of this? Because, you know, some people disagree with me on its color, but
I'm gonna go with gray.
yeah, it's a very gray stripe. Yeah.
Yes, your
Yeah.
gray stripe and pink actually look great.
Yeah.
I think
think they do.
so.
So no, but we did have another actual question. Let's see, Professor Holman, along with taking notes, is it okay to record the lecture also? Absolutely. But talk to your professor.
That was my next point. You'll want to ask your instructor. More than likely, they're going to be fine with it.
Just the polite thing to do.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I kind of needed advice on the with reading the books for the chapters, because I've been struggling to read the chapters books because it takes like 4 hours for AMP to read the book, and then to do the homework and to do the PowerPoint and all of that is just a lot. So do you guys have any like suggestions on how I can make that easier?
So it takes about 4 hours for all of it, right?
Yeah, like for example, because she will do like the chapter 17, 18, and 19, and it's like a lot of reading for the chapters that she's covering for that week. And in order to read, like to read everything, it takes like, and to study and take note and all of that, it takes a long time to finish like the whole chapters and do the reviews and all of that.
So you're covering about 3 to 4 chapters a week for this semester.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer's rough that way.
That's one thing about the summer semester. I'll be honest. I always tell students it's shorter. So, is that the only class you're taking?
No, I'm taking 4. It's AMP lecture and lab and microbiology lecture and lab.
Good luck to you.
Are you working at all?
No, I'm not working, thankfully.
Okay, okay. Well then, since you are not working, you are actually going to have to carve out specific days and times to read. And oh gosh, you're going to have to make notes on the chapters you read. Ooh,
Yeah.
So our best suggestion is going to be scheduling it in pieces.
Yes.
So if it takes you, 4 hours to do all of this
Yeah,
stuff,
that's too much at one time.
way too much, and none of it's going to stick.
Mm-hmm.
So break it down into 30-minute increments throughout your day or throughout your week, however you want to do it, whatever's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's too much, and at some point you're just looking at the words.
Yeah, because right now what I was doing was just kind of reviewing through the chapters, not really reading the whole thing, just highlighting the main point. I mean, I've gotten pretty good grades doing that, but I kind of hate that I can't read the whole chapters throughoutly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you stated, because I know after a while, but if you're not working, if you have the time,
Yeah.
schedule the time throughout the day, maybe an hour you'll read, and then take a break and come back, a little while later, because that's overkill.
You don't want to burn yourself out. It won't stick with you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely try that and put something into that.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Any other questions for us?
Okay. Oh, somebody asked, what did I overlook the questions for Dr. Turk's extra credit?
I mean, we can only cover
That would
so many
be
times.
in, I know, Dr. Turk's course. No, we answered those questions. I hope you were able to. And also, this is being recorded. So if you need to go back and rewatch it, you can.
Yeah. Now, the question is, how are you going to announce the drawing?
I'm going to send an email out after this is over to the winners specifically, because I don't have time necessarily to do it while we're in here. So I will send an email out to the 5 winners who are going to be picked at random, and you'll get an email and a picture of the different prizes that you can pick from. The recording, for those of you who are asking, actually, I will send out to all students today or tomorrow. But if you are here, which you are, the recording, when I finish it, will show up in the chat box. So you can access it right after this or later. Like, you just pull up this link again and pop in here and you'll see it. So you can either get it through the chat box here, or I will be emailing that out to all students today or tomorrow, hopefully today.
Yeah, as for can you resubmit your answer, that depends on your instructor. If it were me, if you're one of my students, no.
Yeah, you have to talk to your instructor about that. So, because there are different students, different classes in here, so we can't answer that for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Also, if you haven't already, please put your first and last name and email address in the chat box so that we have a record of your attendance, and you'll also be entered to win the drawing.
Most likely, to answer the question about where do you answer the extra credit, that usually is going to be in a Dropbox of its own in Blackboard for your respective classes, unless your instructor has said to do something else.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Anybody else have any other questions?